Hey everybody, this is Perch. Who doesn't have a little bit of regret in their life? I certainly do. Starting this channel, for example. No, I'm mostly joking. Anyway, simple email, and hopefully this spawns a lot of good reflection and thoughts from you, the audience. So you can write in the comment section below to provide content that allows me to monetize your efforts. That's what this is all about, folks. Anyway, it says thinking about the past says Perch. Have you ever watched or thought about a past video you've done and said to yourself, oh, you poor fellow, you have no idea what's in store, or something like that? And if so, what was it? Uh, well, all the time. And I think, every now and then, you run across somebody who's either a blogger or a YouTuber or whatever, and they're like, I have no regrets. Everything I've said is perfect, and it always has been. Or they try and kind of deny that they've ever said the wrong thing in their past. And to me, that just says, one, they're a liar, and two, they also never make any kind of real predictions or make bold statements. And why wouldn't you? You should. It is correct and right to actually make some crazy predictions, make some crazy ideas. That's what you should be doing. But anyway, so past videos I've done, one immediately springs to mind. When I first read this mail, there was exactly one thing that I went through my head immediately, and that was during the Jonathan Hickman Power of 10, not Ten of Swords, House of X, Powers of 10, right? I remember I did reviews. They're up there. You can see them, and I was reviewing each issue of that series and talking about how exciting and great it was, and how I was excited for the Krakoa era. I was definitely like, oh, I think this is pretty good. I remember when they announced the first X-Men title, the adjectiveless X-Men book that Hickman would be writing, spinning out of House of X, Powers of 10. It said, Hickman said they're all basically going to be one and done issues. Each issue will be self-contained. I remember doing a video going, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that spits in the face of kind of what has made the X-Men popular. And if you think about the big eras where they made a lot of money, it was because it was this episodic soap opera-like sprawling story. And that worked for it. Why would you move away from that? That's a mistake. And I said, but I'm really optimistic. He proved me wrong with House of X, Powers of 10. So I'm sure this will work out just fine. And that's a clear, immediately, that's a clear example of, well, it will go bad. And sure enough, it did. It turned into the worst of both worlds. It was simultaneously not impactful in what it was doing, meaning the storylines and other things just didn't stick mentally or emotionally. And by the way, a lot of people out there will give Hickman a pass and say, oh, he was perfect, but it was everybody else that came in that was a problem. Wes over at Thinking Critical and I argued about this many, many times. I think he may have kind of come around and changed his mind a little bit, but initially it was, I remember being on fierce arguments during the times when I'd show up on that aficionado show. And it was always Hickman it was that damn Jordan White. He forced Hickman to work with like Teeny Howard and others. And then sure enough, Hickman goes off to do his own Substack, and who's the partner he has with him? Teeny Howard. And so it's like, oh, well, maybe not. Even though we had, I think Brian Edward Hill come on, he did an interview. It was one of the first interviews on this channel. And he talked about how Hickman reached out and was kind of handpicking the creators he wanted to work with. And he was one of them, kind of in those early stages. But anyway, that's a clear example of one where, I could go back now and go, oh, you're excited now, but don't worry, it's all going to turn to shit. Or, hey, your concerns over the one and done issue, trust me, that'll be the least of your concerns by the time we're all done with this. But that's a good example of it. I think the other one, the kind of the bigger message is, over the years, if you've been listening to this channel for a long time, I've talked about the industry needing to change, and, creators needing to get more control over things and needing to have more power, and I've vouched for other options like crowdfunding, like other things as viable alternatives. And unfortunately, I think what we've seen and what's kind of come about has been, no matter how bad I was worried it would get for retailers and for creators, it has gotten worse. If anything in this channel, I've probably undersold the impact of things. If you remember back when COVID hit and there was this brief kind of, comic books are selling better than ever. This was in 2021, right? And you would go to like the Beat and Bleeding Cool and places like this, and they're talking about comics just flying off the shelves. Never had so much business. And I remember saying, I don't think that's true. And I think this is being wildly exaggerated. Well, it turned out a better way to have said that would have been that was a big fucking lie, complete absolute lie, and it was invented by a lot of scam artists who really their only goal was to try and boost out another $12 to $18 in ad revenue on their shitty sites. But I think there's a couple areas where it's not in my personality, and I've been called out for that of just not being aggressive with some of the things that are really, really broken, and try to find kind of, well, here's all the angles you should look at it. And I'm not going to change who I am because I think that's still valuable to have a calm, more steady hand on the wheel. But definitely some of these topics over the years are like, this feels like it could be bad. Turned out to be horrifically bad. And that's just, so like the male writer wrote, that's an example of you don't know how bad it's going to get. Interestingly enough, and I'll throw this in as well, I knew when I started doing this channel, it's why I called it Perch versus my real name, Steve. I did this and I knew that there would be creators who would just be pissed and not like what I've done here. And there would be some that are friends, behind the scenes are happy to give me a call, but would never, ever go on the show to do an interview because I'm afraid of looking bad because I talk about problems the industry has. But the interesting thing that I guess I underestimated a little bit was how entrenched some people would get. I think I did not fall for the 2016 kind of, social climate, which said, if you have a conversation with somebody who you disagree with politically, you're a Nazi. We got ourselves into this place where you're not even allowed to have rational conversations or speak calmly to people. You can't even bring up certain topics without being branded. And there are definitely some people, I think about that guy almost from day one when I appeared, this Andrew Farrago guy, who, immediately out the jump, it was that guy is every name under the book: sexist, hateful, comicsgate, white supremacist, racist, all these things that this guy has tapped me with over the years. But if you actually listen to the show, I mean, that is absurd. It doesn't match anything that I'm saying. My struggle through, I think, this entire channel's lifestyle has been, how do we make more money in shops? How do we make more money for creators? And my suggestions are not, let's fire all the women, make all the creators right, and give all the female superheroes giant tits. It's never been my pitch. From day one on this channel, I've talked about G. Willow Wilson being a good writer who was off to a good start and debunking a lot of the myths on Miss Marvel. I think it was that video where I did the sales analysis talking about Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. And that was the one where Zach, who'd been, I would say, a pretty big critic of this channel and me in general, down to his voice sounds annoying. That turned the corner for him. He's like, this is a well thought through video. And in that video, I talk about, G. Willow Wilson and the dreaded Sana Amanat actually putting out a title that sold well, did well, had some momentum, and then got screwed up. Not because the character was too much of a chick or a Muslim, but because they fucked around with relaunching the series, tying it into other events, screwing up the formula that was doing really well for them. And there's a lesson to be learned there. So, but anyway, I say this I misjudged how entrenched some people would be in their own self-interest. And if there's one thing that is truly broken about comics, it is that you have people who are willing to go broke and willing to suffer in return for holding on to the tiniest kind of smidgen of power, illusionary power, but the tiniest little vestige of authority that they have. It's broken. You look at somebody like a Heidi Mcdonald who does the beat, and you see kind of a person who is not doing well by her own words of, getting some, gigs on the side, but her passion of being a journalist, about being as somebody who's presenting news in comics. I mean, she's out kind of e-begging it sometimes for money and for attention. And I read that, and my reaction is, damn it, I wish this woman could be successful. We need a comic news journalist. We need this service. It will be healthy for the industry if we did. So I think we'd be in a better world if she was successful. But in order to be successful, you do need to be neutral. One of the big lies that I think people told themselves and each other was this idea of, news journalists don't have to be neutral. But you kind of do. In order to view things from a neutral vantage point, in order to truly look at, where things are at, it's correct to admit your biases. But when you're reporting the news, you have to admit your biases and be willing to present a clean slate. That's what's necessary in order to, report on the news, reach a big audience, and also just, serve up truth. Bias can be okay, but bias doesn't equal truth. And you lose credibility when you blow that. So anyway, it's been an interesting journey, this channel, and kind of all the different things, certainly tons of things I've said that I later said, well, I was completely fucking wrong. Or, wow, I was not aggressive enough in that perspective. And that's part of the fun, I guess, of doing it. But overall, yeah, I regret doing the channel in the first place. No, I'm mostly kidding, like I said. Anyway, what's your regrets? What have you come to realize was, boy, I didn't think, I said it was bad, but wow, it was really bad. What kind of things do you have like that? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.